Hey, how are we doing, everybody? Welcome back into the SFS channel. My name is Gavin, and buckle in your seatbelts here. We are getting right underway in today's video with a 2022 fantasy football draft here, a 12-team half PPR format mock here, or this is really a best ball draft here on Underdog Fantasy, and I will be drafting today from the 1.9 overall position. I just posted a video, most likely it'll be the day before you're seeing this one, on a very similar video here, the exact same format of a draft from the 11th overall pick, or excuse me, from the 5th overall pick. I'm not sure why I just said the 11th pick. So 5th overall pick, go check out that video if you are drafting in a league this year from that position. But today we'll be mocking from the 9th overall pick. So it'll be very interesting to see who falls to us on the table here, how today's video ends up turning out, and obviously all of the picks that go off the board. So just like that video, today we've got ourselves a very cookie cutter-like start here with JT, CMC, and Cooper Kupp all following ADP there with the first 3 picks off the board. With my 9th overall pick, I wouldn't mind going Joe Mixon, Najee Harris, 2 players that I'm very high on for this season. It'll likely come down to one or the other here. I do actually have both players ranked ahead of Dalvin Cook. So in the situation that those guys fall to me, and with the 6 picks in between my 2 selections, I won't have to worry about picking Dalvin Cook there anyways, as he goes off the table. But actually an interesting turn of events here will be that Derrick Henry falls into my lap. So kind of an unforeseen circumstance there. I will take him at the 1.9, and I was not anticipating that to happen whatsoever. So very interesting start to the video. I believe off the top of my head, Derrick Henry is my RB6 for this coming fantasy football season. And of course, if you guys want to get access to those rankings and everything else that we've got here on or in the SFS community, check out sizzlefantasy.com. The link is in the description of today's video. We've got a page right off the home screen where you can check out all of our pricing options for the 2022 draft guides. One of the ways that you can get access to those guides is by playing fantasy with me this season on Underdog and using promo code SFS when you sign up and deposit $10 or more. They're going to give you a 100% deposit match bonus, doubling your money. So you put 10 bucks in, you'll get 20 to play with. You put $100 in, they'll give you another $100 for 200 total to play with, and you'll get the draft guides free on sizzlefantasy.com. I check in with the Underdog guys a couple times a week. Every time they'll shoot me the email addresses of the signups, and I'll give you guys and get you guys set up with an account and site-wide access through this season's Super Bowl. So go check that stuff out again. And of course, I will play fantasy leagues with you guys this season. So if you sign up with the promo code, get those draft guides free, you better believe I'll be playing some leagues with you this year. So some really interesting stuff going on here. Josh Allen goes at the 111 pick. Maybe I'm 1000% not tripping, because if this was a super flex league, he would not have been the first guy to go off the board at the 111 spot. We'll take a look at it just to make sure I'm not crazy here, but this should just be a 12-team half PPR league. Again, otherwise QBs would be flying off the board left and right. So very interesting pick there to see that take place well ahead of ADP. We must have a real strong member of the Bills Mafia here in today's draft. I can't wait to see where they go here at the 212 overall pick, and that'll just give us some more opportunity and more value here on the backside or with our second pick off the board here. I will pop up the draft screen for you guys. After I make this selection, we'll dive into the picks there and see exactly what's happening. But one more time, you guys, go check out those draft guides on sizzlefantasy.com. And as always, I invite you guys, if you have questions about today's draft, about your leagues, anything, put that stuff in the comment section down below, and I will get back to you guys as soon as I possibly can. Of course, the goal here is to help as many people in the community as possible stack up those trophies for this season. So Pat Mahomes goes here at the 2-2. Am I actually insane? What is going on here? This is not a super flex league at all. I think that they think that they're in a super flex league when in actuality they are not. So wow, I can't believe this is happening right now. Man, do I want to double up and get myself to, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do it because there's value with Mark Andrews. I'm going to double up here, go Joe Mixon, switch things up a little bit. I am very high on DeAndre Swift and Joe Mixon, but with a different start to today's video. I'll stack King Henry and Joe Mixon, getting myself 2 very, very quality RB1s. I think the community is way too low right now on Joe Mixon. For a guy who was the RB3 last year, playing in such an elite NFL offense as a pure workhorse running back, being top 5 in the NFL in red zone touches. I apologize, I did say I would put that draft board screen up there. There you guys go. You can see the second round unfolding here. I am really shocked at exactly what's going on here at this 111 pick and the 2-2 overall with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen going off the table. I wonder if it's dawned on him yet that nobody else is drafting quarterbacks. So, you know, and the fact that there's no trades and this is not a dynasty league either, there's no real reason to get a positional advantage at such a unique one like quarterback in these 1 QB leagues, since at the end of the day, you're stuck with them on your roster, and your first 2 picks inevitably have just become the least positionally scarce position in 1 quarterback league. So that set me up beautifully on the bend to reap the rewards of that. Again, Derrick Henry and Joe Mixon, 2 guys who I think, if they stay healthy, have very, very good shots to finish as top 12 running backs. So I'm really fascinated to see how the draft fills out for the rest of these teams here after that very unique start. Holy cow, at the 1-2, we're going no risk it, no biscuit here. CMC and Tyreek Hill, 1 guy's in a brand new situation with a massive change in terms of quarterback play at that position group in Miami. And on the other side of things, he picked a player who I think has the highest upside of any running back in fantasy this year. But of course, that being Christian McCaffrey, has only played 10 games total the past 2 seasons combined. So they're dabbling in a healthy amount of risk there. Cooper Kupp and Saquon Barkley is a really nice stack there at the 1-3. Of course, as Saquon's ADP continues to surge, it is backing off a little bit now. At one point in time, I was seeing him go at the 2-1 pick repeatedly in these leagues that I was joining here. But as of late, you're starting to see him creep back towards the middle and late second round, where he started nearly a 4th round pick at the top of this offseason. So I'm really liking what the 1-1 team here is doing with Jonathan Taylor, T. Higgins, and Keenan Allen. I think T and Keenan are both very high floor wide receiver 1s this season. Both of those picks aren't going to win you your leagues, but they're certainly not going to lose it. I think you're getting really safe, consistent production here. Now, this is best ball, so at the end of the day, if a guy flops, he'll just get pushed down to your bench unit if you have other healthy starters that outproduce them. But in terms of weekly consistency and floor value, that's a really good stack, and those players will likely be in the lineups almost every week this season. So here we go with kind of a sneaky strategy here at the 1-4, going Justin Jefferson, then Mark Andrews, and still finding yourself a running back in a half PPR format in Nick Chubb that has a decent, again, floor value. His ceiling is a bit limited. Only had a 51.3% snap share last season, but in terms of being a pure rusher and an actual NFL running back, is definitely one of the best players in the league. I actually might just pull up my phone and draft off of my phone so that you guys are able to see the entire draft as it gets underway here. It looks like Mike Williams will be the pick for us here today. I think this is actually pairing out perfectly in terms of we've got ourselves 2 legitimate stud RB1s, and we've got ourselves a player in Mike Williams who is going to be kind of a high-risk, high-reward weekly boom-bust option. But with those 2 anchor positions at running back, I feel very empowered, if you will, to just go out here and draft a ton of ceiling potential at wide receiver, because I'm not too worried about those running backs flopping, because I think that between Derrick Henry's rushing ceiling, his touchdown production potential, and Joe Mixon's offensive ceiling, just in terms of how great that Cincinnati Bengals offense is, I think you're going to get a lot of stuff to work with there. So as we kind of wait to get back on the clock here, I'm going to just open up Underdog on my phone and see if I can navigate this a bit better with you guys. Again, just simply drafting from my mobile device here and giving you guys just a better view of exactly what's happening on the draft board. So I'll be watching both my computer screen and my phone here, seeing exactly what's taking place, and then I can just kind of analyze the big board picture view of the draft. I don't know why I haven't done this earlier. I mean, this is probably like my 20th or 25th 5th, somewhere in that marker draft that I've done of the season for just YouTube here, not even counting the offline mocks that I've done. So a bit interesting why I didn't make this move sooner. But man, this might be the first time in the 4th round where I've had the unique opportunity, because of how much lower Alvin Kamara is falling than his ADP. I might get a sneaky shot to draft him here. Otherwise, Breece Hall is still on the table. There are plenty of wide receivers that have fallen to me in today's episode. We had a bit of a running back run go there in the 3rd round. Not too many receivers based off of what you normally see take place here. This is an interesting draft. This is definitely one of the more unique. Holy cow, what is going on here? 4 straight all right. At this point, it has to be a joke. I have absolutely no idea what they're doing. Drafting Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, and Jackson in the top 4 rounds of this draft. So, I'm sure some of you guys aren't going to be too pleased with this watching today's video, because it does make things a bit unrealistic. Like I said, I'm going to get Alvin Kamara, who is due for a suspension. I'm going to have him fall into my lap here in the 4th round, which really shouldn't happen. His ADP is 33.5 overall. Of course, he is the player available on the table for me to select here. I also have my pick of Travis Etienne or Breece Hall, who I'm very high on those 2 players as well, but I just can't really pass on the value here. Wow, and the fact that he went Hurts and Jackson over Herbert is very, very interesting. So this is quite the quite the occurrence here. One of the most interesting things I actually learned recently here on Underdog is that you can peek over at the bars here of the other teams in your leagues to give you kind of a quick idea of how their team is built. So essentially, purple here corresponds with quarterbacks. That's showing that that's been every pick for this team. The orange corresponds with receivers. The tealish green color corresponds with running backs. So you can see a more receiver-heavy team here, whereas my team over here is a bit more running back heavy. 75% of the picks I've made actually so far have been at the running back position. I'm definitely going to be looking to load up at the receiver position later on here. As we get closer to rounds 8 through 10, I'll entertain quarterback. Tight end seems like something I'll be fading unless in the 6th round or so I can pick up some nice value on a Dalton Schultz. But so far, I'm really liking how things have turned out in today's episode. I can't believe that Underdog doesn't have some sort of a positional cap on quarterbacks in these 1 QB leagues. I'm actually going to keep looking at this on my phone here, because I'm really puzzled by exactly what Jazatri, man, I can't read words that aren't basic English. You know, I've got a big brain for fantasy football, but everything else, I am as smooth as it gets upstairs. So, just kind of diving into exactly what's happened since I made that Alvin Kamara pick. I'm actually quite surprised to see Breece Hall go as the 3rd running back of that little run there. Travis Etienne, Cam Akers, Breece Hall, if I had to rank that group for you guys, I'd probably put Breece, then Cam, then Travis Etienne. I had to go double check my rankings for sure, but I believe off the top of my head, that's exactly the way I have the order. Deontay Johnson got a great value there at the 411. Personally, I probably would have drafted him over Hollywood Brown and Cortland Sutton. McLaurin has a higher ceiling. I hope that Carson Wentz can be a positive for him. 412 value for Allen Robinson is absurd draft value right there. Very, very good pick. And here you see now that's kind of swung the opposite direction of our team as well, with the first 4 picks of the 1.1 overall drafter here. He has went 3 receivers out of 4 and 1 running back. So I really like that's a really safe receiver room. All these guys are going to get their numbers. George Kittle, that pick is something that I'm not super excited about there. Kittle's just someone I'm staying away from in fantasy this season. His touchdown ceiling historically has been very low. Run after catch ability and overall talent at the tight end spot is unmatched. He is one of the, arguably, I said this earlier in a video this offseason, if I were to have a full 17 game schedule and I was an NFL GM, you told me that my player was going to play every single contest that season between the combined run blocking and pass game skills that Kittle possesses, he might be my choice over a Travis Kelce, over a Kyle Pitts, over a Mark Andrews to be the well-rounded, do-it-all doing all the ugly work. Again, if this is a healthy 17-game sample size player, I'm taking George Kittle with his explosiveness in the open field, honestly, just the energy he brings to the football field, and the leadership he has in the locker room. 5-3 pick there for Jerry Jeudy is phenomenal value. I've said this a bajillion times, but if you watch the videos here, he is I always say he is my must-owned player. He is my most owned player. I'm telling you guys, there's not too much upstairs going on here except for fantasy football 24/7. So Jerry Jeudy there, though, at the 5-3 is phenomenal draft day value. I like that a lot. All right, we are up on the clock here, essentially. So I have got to figure out what way I want to go. I actually do want to pop this board down here for a second so I can peek at the bye weeks. Juju, Rashad Bateman, 2 players I'm very interested in. I'm not huge on DK Metcalf, and spoiler, I actually just picked him in my last video. Thank you, Dolphins fan, for taking him there, so I don't have to worry about that situation. And it looks like I'm actually going to be going with Rashad Bateman here. I don't want both of my top 2 receiver investments here being in the same bye week. So Bateman's someone I think has really good breakout potential this season when you consider the fact that Marquise Brown was shipped off in the NFL draft to the Arizona Cardinals. Now it's kind of the Bateman and the Mark Andrews show in Baltimore, and I could not be more excited about that. Rashad Bateman was easily one of my most favorite prospects coming out of Minnesota last draft season in 2021. He does it all. He runs all of his routes very crisp. This is a guy who I think is phenomenal at the catch point, is really good in adjusting his body and just having really good field awareness. I think he's a high football IQ player. And obviously a first-round draft capital investment from Baltimore shows that they are committed to him. And I think that he's going to see a lot of opportunity and responsibility fall on his plate this year with exactly the situation that I just outlined unfolding there this season. So there's an interesting dynamic brewing here, and I actually really want to see. Okay, so finally, Jazakary, that's how we're gonna go. Jazakary here drafts a receiver, his first non-quarterback choice here of this draft. Juju Smith-Schuster there off the board at the 5'11". That was the player that we were coming down to with Rashad Bateman when it was decision-making time, and then we ultimately pivoted and went towards Bateman again to avoid that bye week stack issue with Mike Williams, who again is arguably the most boom or bust, in terms of how high his ceiling is and how low that floor is. One of the, he's the poster child of a boom bust option. However, when you're tied to Justin Herbert, when you're a guy who was top 10, in red zone looks last year, a guy who makes 50-50 balls look like 75-20 balls, that's a player I want to be, or 75-25 balls, wow. That's a guy who I want to be invested in here. And with how strong the running back room is that I've compiled so far in this video, I really am comfortable investing there. And I think that basically, okay, I'm going to totally just talk about what I was going with there. But the situation that was brewing here was the opportunity to have Chris Godwin and Alvin Kamara. Now, he went off the board. All right. So do I want to go Darnell Mooney here? Another receiver who I'm quite fond of, or do I want to throw, do I want to invest into the market of a Dalton Schultz? I think I'm going to continue loading up at upside at the wide receiver position. I'm going to go Darnell Mooney here as my wide receiver 3 for this team. I feel very good about his upside. I'll pop that board back up for you guys. I apologize for not doing that there, but I did want to make sure that I had proper picks going in place here. So basically, where I was going before, everything starts to unfold in these drafts. This is the way that everything goes here. We're doing things on the fly, and we are rapidly just compiling rosters and building teams minute by minute, second by second here. So I was really excited about the opportunity to have Chris Godwin. Now, the situation that I wanted to break down was the idea that I could potentially have Chris Godwin, who is not ready to recover and be out there on the field day one for Tampa Bay. What I started talking about is that there have been some reports of positivity in that recovery process. I apologize if you guys can hear my chair squeaking every time I adjust myself here in the studio. I should probably get a different chair for this regular season so you guys don't have to keep listening to that, but I'm literally just sitting on a card table chair. It hurts my butt like a son of a gun. I should sit on a pillow or something. Basically, where I was going for the 100th time is Chris Godwin is a player who, like I said, he's recovering from the ACL. You've heard positive things, but it's not a guarantee yet that he suits up week 1. Same thing with Alvin Kamara that I just drafted here. Now, he is not recovering from an injury. Rather, he has some legal issues hovering over his head. The assault and battery, I believe, is what he was charged with at the Pro Bowl last year. Basically, he was at the club, I believe, and or he was just out with his buddies, and he had like his security crew with him, and they went to get in the elevator. They asked a man to please not get in the elevator because Alvin Kamara, as a famous individual, you just don't want anything that would tarnish your image to happen in that elevator in terms of that player either tries to, paint a picture with his phone or something. I don't know what the case would be. Basically, I'm basically pulling my analysis on this topic based off of a segment from Shannon Sharp on Undisputed. What he talked about basically, though, is that he wouldn't let any stranger into an elevator with him, or he would simply exit the elevator and let them get in prior to him going to his destination, because he just didn't want to put himself in a situation that could potentially unfold negatively for him. But I think what happened is that Alvin got in the elevator. He was probably intoxicated because, again, he was out having fun with his buddies. And when they asked the man or whoever it was to not get in the elevator with him, he was like, really? Like, why can't I come in the elevator? And so when he didn't listen to them, they then proceeded to take physical measures. So what ended up happening was, I think his security team tackled him and whatever, and then I think Alvin ended up throwing a couple of kicks or something that got him a legal trouble arisen out of that situation. So the rumors are a 1 to 6 game suspension for AK. So basically, the situation that I wanted to talk about was the idea of maybe not having Alvin Kamara and Chris Godwin on the field early in the season. Now, if the team and the group were able to hold it together, and I'm able to walk into the fantasy playoffs with Alvin Kamara, Mike Williams, Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry, Rashad Bateman, and Darnell Mooney, Chris Godwin as well, if I didn't say that name already, that's a pretty dang good start. Well, I wouldn't have had Darnell Mooney. I would have had Chris Godwin instead. That would have been one heck of a start to the draft, one heck of a start to the roster building process. However, I would have had to weigh the risk and the pros and cons of that situation where I may not have 2 very high producing players for this team early on in the season. So that's basically where I was going with that. I will pop the screen down for you guys so you can see exactly who is still available on the table. There are some receivers that look decent here. You do have Russ, which would be an option. I think I can wait till, honestly, the top of the 8th round to address that situation. Allen Lazard's a receiver I really like investing into. Christian Kirk, should Lazard not be there anymore, is a player I really like. Devontae Smith, I tend to stay away from because I'm not very confident in Jalen Hurts' consistent ability to deliver fantasy points to his receivers. I'm very confident and bullish on Jalen Hurts as a rushing threat and as a fantasy quarterback. However, that's not something I'm super optimistic about in terms of his ability to produce for his other weapons. So as has already happened a couple times in today's video, the decision is made easy for us, and it's kind of decided before it ever becomes an issue. And off the table goes Christian Kirk to us. I think the negative game scripts that are going to start popping up and arising here for Jacksonville again this season, in combination with one of the most accurate young passing quarterbacks in Trevor Lawrence, I think we got to just wipe last season off the table. Take a big ol' dry erase marker and just wipe everything off the whiteboard you saw last year. Don't mind it. When you had such dysfunction in Jacksonville from a bad offensive line, frequent pressures, Lawrence running for his life, an underwhelming weapons core. Travis Etienne goes down with a Liz Frank injury. He wasn't out there to help once last season. James Robinson, although it be a late season Achilles injury, still had that issue, missed the end of the season. You've got Urban Meyer, who was totally toxic in that room for much of last year before ultimately, what was the final straw? Was it when he kicked Josh Lambo at practice or something? We're talking about a lot of violence in the NFL today that is not within the confines of the game. That situation was just god-awful, and I literally cannot imagine what amount of garbage he had to deal with in that situation. So we're about to be up on the clock here. We are actually up on the clock actively. I will be deciding whether or not I want to go ahead and draft Matthew Stafford. Did TB12 go off the board? He did at the 7-6. Wow. I could draft Matt Stafford here. I could draft Rashad Penny. That would give me a really strong top 4 running back room. Or, you know, I could go Chase Edmonds. How about we just lock it in place today? I will go Rashad Penny, who's currently going as the RB30 off the table. I have really made it a point in an effort here this season, and I think this actually works out pretty well for this team. Despite the fact that I am so deep at the running back position, I think it's important to keep addressing that spot with this current build because Alvin Kamara is unlikely to be there for, you know, the first third of the season. So I will need some other quality options to kind of hold down the fort, if you will. Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr will look to be our targets at the quarterback position as this draft continues to unwind here. Just basing this off of ADP off the top of my head and exactly who can still be there for us, because we're going to miss the Matthew Stafford turnaround here. I would be absolutely shocked if he's still there at the back half of the 9th round. But basically, I've been making a very direct effort in drafts this season since the Rashad Penny optimism and news that we're hearing that he's going to be used as a workhorse, that he's going to see all these touches. He was dang effective in the amount of opportunities given to him down the stretch last year when he was finally healthy. He's already had a couple things come up in training camp that we, you know, don't like to see because he's a very injury-prone player. This is a guy who is frequently in and out of the lineup. Chase Edmonds' ADP is just skyrocketing, man. I am very, very glad that I got as many shares of him when I did because it is very quickly becoming something where the value is disappearing. Anyways, what I was saying, I am very, very confident and bullish on Kenneth Walker and his ability to be a productive asset this season. The one red flag, though, is Rashad Penny. So really, to me, it's going to come down to whether or not Rashad Penny stays healthy. My honest opinion is that he doesn't. I think that at some point in the year, he might lose the job. But if the rumors and the reports we're saying are true, this is where that kind of 50-50 split and, you know, balancing out my investment pool here. I'm going to be drafting Rashad Penny and Ken Walker across my leagues this year because I think one of them will prevail as a successful fantasy starter. Again, I would say right now, I did say 50-50 multiple times there, but I would say it's more of a 66-33 split right now. I would say in favor of Kenneth Walker. Just because, again, I am very pessimistic in Rashad Penny's ability to stay healthy and his ability to not miss games. So kind of my thought process here is that if Penny misses games and Ken Walker goes out there and just crushes the competition and kills it, he might as well just move forward as, if not a running back split like a Javonte Melvin Gordon season last year, in that situation, you know, Ken Walker could totally just take over the backfield on his own. So, but early in the year, when Penny is healthy, I expect him to get that work. And if he doesn't get healthy and never looks back, that might be the situation that unfolds this season. So there's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of unknowns in that situation. Both players are talented. I think both of these guys can do damage with the rock in their hands. But again, it's going to come down to Penny's health here, again, because we'll be missing AK early in the season. I will, you know, kind of put my eggs in the Rashad Penny basket because I think he works well with this team, whereas it doesn't make much sense for me to draft a Ken Walker for this lineup when he's probably going to pop down the second half of the season if that's the situation that comes about here, where we're going to need that extra production to come about and potentially bail us out in some games early in the year when we only have these top 2 running backs who, again, are phenomenal options, fantastic upside, really good floor value with those first 2 round draft picks. But, you know, that's where my head's at here. So we're getting to the 8th round. It looks like this could be, or excuse me, we are in the 9th round. It looks like this is going to be Derek Carr territory for me. Drafting him here, it just makes sense for this team. If he doesn't go, or if he doesn't fall to us, excuse me, I think that Aaron Rodgers would be a very appropriate pick as he goes off the board. So we're going to pray here that Dolphins fan 2001, who does not have a quarterback, and he did not select Derek. I don't want to be too light at the quarterback position on this team, so I will take my favorite sleeper pick, if you will, to be kind of this season's Matthew Stafford. Derek Carr now having Devontae Adams. I think that that'll work out really nice for us. So I'm just going to take a look at our team here for today. If there's any way to do that on the phone, I just wanted to read that off for you guys instead of closing out this window. We're up on the clock, so I'll wait till after our 10th round selection to do that. Players I wouldn't mind drafting here: Cordero Patterson, James Cook still on the board, Christian Watson, who has been massively invested into by me this season. We do still need a tight end. Dawson Knox and Zach Ertz are still on the table. However, we do have two teams on the bench here. There goes Dawson Knox. I was going to say they had not addressed the tight end position yet, so I was very skeptical that Knox was going to land with us here. So I might just end up waiting even later. I don't know if that's a great idea, though. I might just have to take Zach Ertz, even though he's not one of my favorite players to pick this season. Irv Smith, to me, while I'm low on Zach Ertz, I still have him ranked ahead of Irv Smith, and it's a little bit early to be drafting an Irv Smith. For this team, for this lineup, it might just make sense to, because I don't want to be too weak at this position group, it might just make sense to lock up Zach Ertz and just forget about it. Otherwise, I could wait and see Cole Kmet come back to me in the 13th round. Let's try that. Let's see how that works out for us here today. I'm actually interested to see how that situation could potentially play out this year. Jimmy Graham saw a lot of red zone and actually end zone, 6 end zone targets last year. With him, hopefully, being out of that situation, you might see an increased productivity level from that team. So that leaves us with the opportunity here. Christian Watson goes at the 10-1 there, where James Cook went as well. So I'm going to actually dabble in the Cordero Patterson market a little bit here. I'm pretty much going to be content and done with the running back position in today's video after making that pick there. But I actually just had a really interesting conversation in our community Discord league. Shout out to, I believe, JKLOL was the guy I was talking about that with. He is always watching videos here, joining our community leagues. The community Discord can be found in the description of today's video. It's just a link. You click on it, sends you over to that page. You join in there. I will, just a heads up, once you join, I have to assign you a role in the server. So if you can't talk immediately once you join, that's not a glitch. That's just the way it's set up. Because if you buy the draft guide, or if you are an SFS Gold member, which is just a monthly access pass to the draft guide content, you will be a gold member in that chat, which means you get DM privileges with me. So I will answer your private questions and you will have your name appear gold in the server. So that's essentially what that's for. Otherwise, all of you guys that are just on free access, that are having conversations with myself in the general chat rooms and joining leagues, all that great stuff, talking with other community members, you guys are just on the normal plan there. So I just have to assign which one of those roles you guys are. So go check that out, though. That's how I'll be inviting you guys to join these leagues offline with me. We're trying to set up one right now. I believe we've got 8 out of the 12 spots filled. Maybe it's 7. I believe the link is in the Discord. So if you're interested in joining a league with me, it's just $3 to join. I try to keep the barriers to entry as low as humanly possible for you guys so that we're able to play as much as possible this season. But anyways, I was having this conversation with the man, the myth, over in the Discord server about Cordero Patterson. And, there's all this hype and all this buzz around Tyler Algier. I get it. He's a sleeper candidate. I do like drafting him here and there. I think he's someone worth having investments in if you're playing best ball, especially across a few leagues. However, to me, he's not the slam dunk player that is guaranteed to start. I would say that the community is fairly low on Cordero Patterson. Maybe he doesn't finish the season nearly as strong as he starts it this year. Maybe last year, and it is most likely that last season, especially with the touchdown production he had, that he peaked in 2021. However, you've got a really big, explosive athlete in space. It's a tough tackle. He can line up at wide receiver. He can stay in the backfield. He's not your ideal traditional workhorse running back, but his skill set is very, very serviceable. There's a lot that can be taken away from Cordero Patterson and incorporated into this offense, especially when they're a little bit less depleted for talent this season than they were at the end of last year after the Calvin Ridley suspension. It was pretty dang brutal. You had Kyle Pitts, Russell Gage, and CPAT were really all that you had to work with there. Now this season, at least, you're talking Drake London, Kyle Pitts, CPAT. It didn't really get that much better. Bryan Edwards was traded for. He should be an interesting factor and dynamic in that offense this season. I actually really like his build and would love to see him break out somewhere. I'm not sure if it's with the Raiders, but he does, it's worth noting, Marcus Mariota and Bryan Edwards played, I'm not sure it's with the Falcons. I'm totally lost with whatever I just said the last two sentences. But the moral of the story is that for whatever it's worth, Bryan Edwards and Marcus Mariota played together in Las Vegas. Now, it's not like they were lighting things up together on the Raiders, but it is worth mentioning. It's something that I think is interesting to say the least. So it looks like things could play out perfectly to get, there goes Cole Kmet, so never mind. Once again, heartbroken by the situation of the draft board. I will go ahead and draft Pat Freiermuth here because I do not want to miss out on that situation. Man, actually, you know, I say things and then I look at the board and say, I like that player. I don't want to pass on Jameson Williams here. It is the 11th round, though. Theoretically, based off of ADP, I should be able to get him at the top of the 12th round. Dolphins fan does have a tight end. We'll see where he goes. He got auto-picked. It's Rojo. So I'll take Pat Freiermuth here. Address that tight end position finally in the late 11th round. At the end of the day, if Jameson Williams does not fall to us here, that is fine. I can find a different player, whether that be Jalen Tolbert, who should have a very fair shot at breaking out early this season with the Dallas Cowboys. I could draft him. I could go Jamison Crowder of the Buffalo Bills, who I think will have a very sneaky and valuable slot role for that offense. Let's see here. Jacoby Myers goes. He's a fine, safe weekly flex option. He shouldn't be starting every week. His ceiling is very low. He's not a touchdown producer, but someone worth, being interested in here. Jahan Dotson goes at the 12-2. Mecole Hardman at the 12-3. Easy pickings. We will take that every time. Jameson Williams, one of my favorite drafts this year. I would say he's fairly polarizing this season. Some could not care less about drafting Jameson Williams. They are just not interested. But for me, why would I not be interested in, yes, he might miss some time, possibly, if he's not entirely ready for the start of camp. But did you see the look on the Lions front office faces? Everyone wearing suits and ties, including whatever Dan Campbell was wearing that day, bitten off kneecaps and all. They were so pumped that Jameson Williams fell to them at the 12th overall pick in that draft. That was arguably as excited I've seen anyone from this past draft class drafting any player this season. Jameson Williams was their guy. They are going to get him the football when he's ready, and he is so explosive. Legit 4.3 speed, is easily the fastest and most explosive player in pads in this past year's draft. Tyquan Thornton has a faster 40 time. He was lights out fast in the 40-yard dash at the combine this year. But again, in pads, Jameson Williams flashes that elite athletic ability a whole lot more than you see a guy like a Tyquan Thornton do that. I like Tyquan Thornton more than most. I think he's a legit sleeper in terms of the things he does stretching the field vertically are not necessarily, oh wow, okay. We got some big news here after I finish this conversation. Jameson Williams' ability to get that ball out in space is just something that, I love Amon-Ra St. Brown as much as the next guy, but he wasn't a first-round pick. He doesn't have this athletic ability. Williams will get that ball, he'll get out in space, and he'll get on a running. And for a guy who I think could easily, and I think that people are overlooking this as well, they're doing the same thing I was doing with Jalen Waddle last year, looking at Tua and saying, wow, he's not a good deep passing quarterback. How are they going to get Waddle involved this year? They throw short passes, they get you the ball out in space, and they let you do your work. Jameson Williams can do the exact same thing. And by the way, while we're on the topic, I'm sick and tired of hearing everyone say, ooh, Tua was the #1 most accurate deep ball passer last year. Yeah, I was looking at the numbers. I was, throwing out my theories about that. I said, it was probably a tiny sample size. There's no chance in hell that Tua is going out here and being the best deep ball passer on a legitimate sample size. Sure enough, Buddy was 30th in deep ball passing attempts last season. So you're talking about being bottom 2 among starters last year. That's a minuscule sample size. Yeah, he missed some games. All right, whatever. Let's give him I could go out there and do the math. I'm sure someone will do it for me and try and be, Tua's best friend down there. I do think he'll be good in fantasy this year. But for those saying that, Tyreek and Jalen Waddle are just going to eat it up over the top this season, yeah, the sample size is smaller than it seems. So, all right, what was I going to talk? Oh, the news. We've got some news here. I haven't exactly read this word for word here, but I did see that Matt Harmon, a very respected name in the fantasy community, does really great work with his reception perception, evaluating receivers, their talent, their ability to separate consistently against man and zone coverage, has retweeted a tweet from Rick Stroud saying Bucs wide receiver has been cleared to begin training camp despite undergoing surgery on January 3rd for a torn ACL. It sounds like Levante David, who has a Liz Frank injury, is also ready to participate in workouts beginning Wednesday. But the team will be careful with both. Neither needed to start on the PUP list, which is the physically unable to perform list. That is a big deal. I talked about earlier in the video how you've got some optimism here that Chris Godwin potentially. Now, you guys are going to be seeing this video in a couple days, so this is going to be old news by the time you're seeing it. But essentially, I forgot to post a video last week. It sat in my video logs, so I ended up posting that on Tuesday here. I just didn't get around to it on Monday for whatever reason. So everything is like back 2 days now because I had a video that I filmed on Monday and then I didn't post it because, long story short here, I didn't realize that I actually had a video ready to go. And based off of posting schedule, I'll be playing some catch up here. It'll be a little bit late news, but the draft will still be very much relevant here. And that is just great stuff to hear about our good friend Chris Godwin. So let's check out the team here. We are absolutely freaking loaded with 5 running backs that I feel very, very good about. Having CPAT as my RB5 is something that I could not like more. If he was my RB2 or 3, that would be a red flag and an issue, but the versatility, the upside is there. I need more dart throws here at wide receiver. We're still a bit weak in that category. Drafting someone like a Jamison Crowder would be very, very much liked here for this team. We'll see if he falls. If he's top on the board, he won't get there. You can dream, though. Pat Freiermuth, Derek Carr, not necessarily strengths, bona fide strengths at those positions, but 2 things that I can feel optimistic about and, hope and dream for. I think Carr will be pretty good. I think Pat Freiermuth will have a solid floor. It's really that ceiling, though, on a week-to-week basis that I have my gripes about. Neither of these teams are really that much. Actually, these 2 teams are less wide receiver dense than I am. A Dolphins fan is going to break my heart here. Somehow Jameson fell to the pick before me, and I've seen this play out far too many times before. I'm going to get my hopes up here, and then he's going to get drafted right in front of our faces. So, and to be entirely honest, I'm not really loving the rest of the receivers here. So, I'm not even going to look. I don't want to be heartbroken when he drafts Jameson. And he's going to get auto-picked. Of course he is. He's going to get auto-picked, and I'm going to lose Jamison Crowder to an auto-draft. Oh, thank the Lord. He picks DJ Chark on some impulsive, terrible choice. Could not be more ashamed of your pick there, Dolphins fan, 2001. Or actually, Dolphins fan 72001. All right, I was missing a 7 in there this whole time. I can't believe it. That you gotta reverse psychology, speak it into existence. Apparently, that's the key here. Playing third fiddle in an offense where you got Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Crowder for a player who came off a very, very disappointing season in DJ Chark. Man, did that ever take a turn for the best for us here? We're going to get ourselves some double-digit target games here in Buffalo from Josh Allen, some opportunities for run-after-catch ability. There's a lot of stuff that I am very, very excited here for this upcoming season with Jamison Crowder in that Bills offense, and I am very, very excited that draft pick was able to be made there because I'm not loving the receivers that were available had that not worked out. So, still some very, very solid running backs, including my good friend Marlon Mack here. I keep saying good friend like I actually know these players. I can only dream of actually knowing these guys in person. Okay, so Pat Freiermuth has a week 9 bye. Robert Tonyan, someone really interesting to me as a sleeper option that could have a high ceiling this year. That might be requisite and needed considering, the running back position and pool on this team is so deep. I know there's a lot of guys that don't like Tonyan this season, but his red zone upside in an Aaron Rodgers-led offense, I think can be very valuable here. He did have a ridiculously high touchdown conversion rate in 2020 when he finished as the tight end 4 overall, which is complete insanity, but it happened. And you've got yourselves a situation with this team in particular where I'm not so sure that Pat Freiermuth in a Mitch Trubisky or potentially Kenny Pickett-led offense can say the same for himself in terms of, you know, the level of accuracy he'll be getting in tight window throws in the red zone and what we can expect on a weekly basis. Again, he'll get his safety blanket looks. I think in the middle of the field, he'll be a really nice option and weapon. But this team could really use some polished, well-roundedness. And I think that having that pairing of a ceiling and a floor asset at the tight end position here is exactly what the doctor ordered for this fantasy football team. So pop that draft board back up for you guys. We are winding down here. We have 4 selections to go in today's draft. I must say I am liking how things have turned out here. As of late, I feel very, content with my pivoting in terms of how draft strategy has changed and evolved based off of the positions we've started with and how the board has underwent various changes, obviously in ADP throughout the summer, as well as just players picking guys out of left field. Now this team, again, there's that weird dynamic. What the heck was Zachary doing here with 4 straight QBs off the board and also leaving Justin Herbert hanging, who I have ranked over Pat Mahomes, who he took all the way up there at the 2-2. I think this is actually kind of good value for Herbert anyways at the 4-3. That might be right around where his ADP is at. I think his ADP is actually 4-2 overall. So still, come on, man. What were we thinking there? And we got Derek Carr to fall into our laps here, who I think has a legit shot and opportunity to be a top 12 quarterback this season. You never know who it is that's going to fall out of this group. And most likely it's Trey Lance. If he can't be an elite rusher, I'm not super confident in his passing game refinement to deliver accurate downfield attempts this season. We'll see. I'm rooting for the kid. It sounds like Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch met with Jimmy G the morning that I am recording this episode. I'm recording in the afternoon, but in the morning, I woke up to a report, had myself a nice slumber this morning, slept until about 10 a.m. Probably a poor choice. Should have been out here working, grinding out some content for you guys. But basically, it sounds like they met with Jimmy G and said, you know what, we moved on. We are exploring Trey Lance, and we are going to move you to another organization. So give me 1 second, guys. Take a swig of my water here. Gets a little dry when you sit here talking for an hour. So interesting nonetheless. Julio Jones at the 15-1 there. Absolutely hate that pick. I made the poor choice of draft. No way. You guys, what is going on here? All right. The Space Oreo, I apologize. He's just signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, like literally now. If you guys can see this. Now, like this notification just came live to the old phone here. So yeah, all right, I don't hate that pick anymore, and now I'm starting to wonder about the possibilities of what could come next for Julio Jones as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Now, if you ask me, he is clearly the 3rd option. Man, that really sucks for Russell Gage, dude. I was excited about him. You know what, before I just have this overt reaction of negativity here for Russell Gage, the realistic reality of the situation is that Julio Jones is just going to pull his hamstring anyways. We're going to see him play in 4 games this year, so it's a very interesting move for sure. I think it definitely helps Tampa Bay if he can stay healthy. I think that Julio does still have something left in the tank. He made a few eye-popping plays for Tennessee last season, although his stats were horrid. But I don't think that offense fit him very well. I don't think that was a great situation for him. I am happy to see that he finally signed with the team. So I was literally just about to reference way back when how I had drafted Julio in the last pick overall in my league and was like, boo-hoo, and was going to say, it's not materializing to anything. And then literally as the Space Oreo makes that pick, it was obviously a smart decision because he had seen that news as he was drafting here. It happened. It is essentially what unfolded here. So he finally landed with a team. I cannot believe that Marlon Mack has fallen all the way here to the 15-9. I'm not going to draft him, though, because I've got plenty of running backs. I'm actually going to draft Sammy Watkins here unless he is drafted at this pick. He is not. Give me the week 1 wonder, the guy who's going to come out here and win me week 1 and then never be seen or heard from again the rest of the season. But wow, interesting stuff from Sammy Watkins, or excuse me, from the Buccaneers to address Julio Jones. Now Will Fuller is kind of just that one guy sitting out there that we're all wondering about for next season. So we will see. We shall see. It's been, what, Will Fuller had the suspension last season. Then he hurt his hand with the Dolphins, was placed on IR, and then that was basically that for Fuller. So I think he might be struggling to find a situation that's really willing, to pay him market value. If Marlon Mack were to fall back to me here at the, 16-4, 16-4, I would take him. We will see, though. We've got some really light running back, Blue is tight end. We've got ourselves still some very light running back rooms on these 3 teams on the bend here. Holy frickin' RB0 here. A.J. Dillon, Tony Pollard, Ramondre Stevenson, and Tyron Davis-Price. And the fact that he had the stones not to draft Marlon Mack there after... this draft right here is a wonder to me of what the heck is going on in a 1 QB league. Yeah, wow. Utter insanity. That's what's going on. And J.D. McKissick, am I missing something here? Is news just coming out left and right that is happening while I'm recording this video? Because I've already, not that I broke the news, but I've already referenced it numerous times in today's video. Stuff that happened while I was recording. Yeah, not seeing anything, so it must just be that everyone in this, draft is just not too high on Marlon Mack, and there he goes. All right, that honestly makes my situation a little easier. I am on the clock here. I do have to make a choice. I think this choice will be to draft my second quarterback here. We'll go Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions, who I've grabbed quite a few shares of this offseason, talking through I think he's a very good game manager. Got that share of Jameson Williams, so I am invested into Detroit's passing game quite frequently this season. A very, very interesting thing here to address that need. Now, I actually don't need a reserve quarterback or tight end, which is usually what I leave my final 2 selections for in these draft episodes. So I think I'm just going to double down at receiver here, take 2 guys that I think have really nice upside. If I could see here, oh wow, Laviska Shenault's ADP is also tanked, which is really interesting. It's kind of the beautiful things of drafts here. So I sat down, Tampa Bay Buccaneers breaking news all over today's video. So I was actually recording when Rob Gronkowski announced his retirement as well. And I was like, I guarantee you, somebody in this draft, there are 12 players here. It is inevitable that one of these players did not see Gronk retired. And they all did. Gronk sat there, and he fell, and he fell, and he fell, and he fell. And I want to say that because I was rambling at the end of the video, I got auto-picked Gronk because his ADP was whatever, and I was picking 180 whatevereth. And I think I got auto-picked him. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I was yapping my mouth. I didn't have any players in the queue, and I got pretty screwed there, if my memory serves me correctly. But I was, talking the whole video. Who is going to draft Gronk? Who is going to be the idiot that takes him? And then, my untimeliness burned me. I could be wrong. Maybe I didn't end up drafting him, but I feel like that was the case in 1 league. I know there was a league that I accidentally got auto-picked Gronk post that news, though. That was possibly a sleeper league that I was in. Could be wrong. Sonny Michel goes at the 16-9. His ADP is really interesting to watch this offseason because you can either get him in the 18th round where his ADP is actually at, or some guys are so bullish on him, and rightfully so. He has a really nice use case, skill set, workhorse size that can be utilized and taken advantage of in this offense that at the end of the day, He could massively, whether you draft him in the 16th round, which is fair game to me. I don't care if you do that, or you draft him in the 18th, you're potentially getting a massive ROI. So don't mind that pick there at all, though. Again, I do want to address the receiver position because if we take a peek at this team, I've only drafted 7, which sounds, plentiful. However, I've drafted 5 running backs that I feel really, really confident in, more so than I do in normal videos. I would say the strength of this team is 100% the running back group. The weakness of this team, probably, you know what? It is receiver. I was going to say tight end, but I feel really good with the 2 players we stacked in terms of what they bring to the table. Quarterback, I feel very, very solid. I would say that that's probably our next biggest weakness if Derek Carr doesn't hit, but I expect that he will here. He has never had a QB1 finish in fantasy points per game. However, he has never had a receiver that sniffs the stratosphere of talent that Davante Adams has. So for what that's worth, Derek Carr should take a big step up this season. Love Davante. I'm a Packer fan. Sucks to see him leave, but man, that dude is a generational player. And when you see him, wearing the black and silver, it looks, he's a childhood Raiders fan. He looks like he was born to be a Raider. So I'm happy for him, as well as I am also sad about it at the same time. But man, I think him and Derek are going to tear it up. I don't necessarily know if I buy into Adams talking through Derek Carr being as good as Aaron Rodgers and a Hall of Famer and all this stuff, but I am optimistic on that situation. Davante Adams is actually someone who outside of one Dynasty league that I hold him in this year, I'm not so sure if I hold him in any leagues. I don't know if I've drafted a singular share of Davante Adams across any fantasy format this season. I'll have to check on that. I don't think I have, though. I really don't think I have. Cam Braid, if he continues to go, is actually pretty surprising to me, considering Kyle Rudolph was brought in to do essentially that role here. We need ourselves a receiver. Poor John Mechie, man. 211. I would love to scoop up a share of him. Didn't get nearly as many shares of him as I wanted to in the summer. And I should probably, explain the fact that, yes, I am aware he is not playing football this year, in the sense that I'm saying in previous drafts, prior to hearing the very sad news about his cancer diagnosis, I was a bit disappointed I hadn't capitalized on enough opportunities to draft him, which now in retrospect probably works out well for me. But man, that's sad, sad stuff to hear. And I am very, very disappointed that he won't get the opportunity to play football this year. Just hopefully he comes back healthy. If you didn't hear, he's got leukemia, very curable form it sounds like, but still not ideal for a young guy trying to get his way set in the NFL. So my last pick here, I typically like to go after Laviska Shenault. I think he's got a really nice slot role and use case in that offense. OBJ for me, I don't know if he plays football this year. Zay Jones is attractive. James Washington is just, the poster child of a letdown wide receiver in fantasy. Devin Duvernay is a sleeper I like as well, but I am higher on Laviska Shenault. I love me some Terrace Marshall as well, who I just drafted there. You talk about that wide back usage. I think Terrace Marshall could be that player. Baker Mayfield is kind of, meh. Like, he's better than Sam Darnold. We'll see what it ends up becoming of here. But at the end of the day, I think it's easier to throw to a big slot receiver and Terrace Marshall and ask him to do damage after the catch. Former number 1 overall high school recruit at his position in the receiving class. And I think he comes out and has some noticeable improvement this season. We'll see if he can end up hitting here or if Laviska Shenault can do so as my last pick in today's draft. So here we go. I doubt Laviska is going to be drafted. If he is, I'll go Devin Duvernay, though. Very, very, I suppose they both could go here. It's very unlikely, though. Devin Duvernay, though, is somebody who I think that, Cam Braid there. That sucks. He is someone that I think that as the number 2 receiver in the Ravens offense, should they be able to produce 3 fantasy relevant players, I just dropped my pen on the floor. Should they be able to produce 3 fantasy relevant players, he is definitely the number 2 wide receiver in line. Again, after that Hollywood Brown move to the Arizona Cardinals, you've got yourself Mark Andrews at tight end, who I expect to lead the team in targets this season. Not too much passing game work in the backfield, really, either. This is a run-first football team when they're able to control the clock and able to, be the best versions of themselves offensively. Obviously, last year the injuries were devastating. The offensive line play was lackluster. The run game wasn't nearly as effective. You're throwing out Tyson Williams and Devontae Freeman, who I don't think has a job, even though his tape was pretty decent last year. Latavius Murray, it was a terribly saturated running back by committee-style offense. Not a pretty sight to watch out there on Sundays. And obviously Lamar Jackson. And all right, so we talked about earlier how, what was it that I talked about that was pissing me off? Oh, it was Tua. The hype that Tua was getting in terms of that #1 in deep ball accuracy rating last year, that was pissing me off because people aren't putting context behind it. What pisses me off even more is that people don't put context behind the Lamar Jackson ankle injury. Everyone's like, oh, boo-hoo, Lamar, that running style of play is really catching up to him, missing 4 or 5 games down the stretch last year. Man, he's never going to last. He's not going to be able to do it ever again, blah, 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 blah. Shut up, okay? He got injured on a routine rollout scramble in the pocket. He was under pressure and got twisted and turned because the dude grabbed his jersey and yanked him down like a hooligan. It had nothing to do with Lamar Jackson running power up the gut or running ISO from the quarterback position. It was literally a drop back pass that he took a sack and got injured. That has been very, very annoying to hear dudes like, I love me some Undisputed, but Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp sitting back there saying, even Colin Cowherd, these guys are not fantasy analysts, but these are just, people talking on a large platform about the game of football. Enough, guys. He didn't get hurt rushing. It's just not the reality of the situation, and it's not what happened. So if we could stop saying that and throwing Lamar Jackson's name through the mud during his contract dispute, not like I have any skin in the game here, but man, come on, guys. Get with the program. All right, rant over, draft over as well. We've got our last pick going off the table here. I can't believe Carson Wentz is still hanging around here in the late 18th round. Wow. I'll go to show you what exactly one comment from Jim Irsay about being a mistake can do to your fantasy draft stock. Jeez. Pretty rough stuff. I mean, at this point, are we so sure that Deshaun Watson plays a game this year? He's going 3 rounds earlier than Carson Wentz. Ryan Tannehill, come on, guys. Who's he going to throw to this year? Treylon Burks? I love Treylon Burks, but they're going to ask a lot of him. They're going to ask him to be A.J. Brown 2.0 to produce that efficiently with that minimal of target looks. Robert Woods, I mean, they don't really attack the middle of the field that much. They're kind of a run it down your throat and then run play action game. But besides the point here, let's take a look at today's team. So we do have one conflicting bye week situation here on this team. Had I noticed this earlier, I probably wouldn't have done it. I dropped a couple pieces of my pen on the floor. Okay, so we've got Derek Carr and Jared Goff at quarterback, which I'm now realizing is a terrible, terrible mistake because they are both 6th round bye week players. That is a big oof and a big whoopsies there. So we were talking about how we didn't want to chalk up one of those weeks to an L, and we ended up doing it anyways. I should have actually known that because off the top of my head now, as I remember back to the draft day cheat sheet, which is a part of the fantasy football draft guides for this upcoming season, you guys get access to. It's a printable PDF. I just went through a couple weeks ago and put in all of the bye weeks, and I very clearly and vividly remember both the Raiders and the Lions have week 6 byes, yet I still drafted their quarterbacks. So I guess we've got ourselves a little bit of a conundrum there. It's week 6 at the end of the day, so who knows? Maybe someone gives us a hero performance and we pull out the W, but that makes me sure look pretty stupid there. For the running back position, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Rashad Penny, and Cordarrelle Patterson. Now, what do we think about this position group? It's a very, very strong core of running backs. We do have 2 overlapping bye weeks in week 14 with CPAT and AK. Kind of unfortunate that is a later season bye week situation, but week 15, 16, and 17 are the fantasy playoffs, so at the end of the day, it's fine. If you've got to make it or break a game, though, Henry, Mixon, and Penny better freaking show up for the team. Mike Williams, Rashad Bateman, Darnell Mooney, Christian Kirk, Jamison Williams, Jamison Crowder, Sammy Watkins, Terrace Marshall, and Laviska Shenault is the group at the wide receiver position. Ultimately trying to load up on some upside here. Don't know if this is a championship team at the end of the day. We're going to need some of these guys to break out and bring a lot to the table. And then Pat Freiermuth and Robert Tonyan at the tight end position. So I feel good and okay about this team. Another reason that I think it's very, very funny that this projection is one of the higher numbers I've drafted this season, because to be honest, it's not one of my favorite teams. Obviously, we do have this blunder, which again is a week 6 issue. That's okay. That's fine. That's, great. That happened. Again, it's an early season bye week predicament. We'll probably drop that game. But the fact that the receiver room is so unproven here is what's really puzzling to me of how did we get this number. Because, I do have 3 running backs, and that number is actually going to tank as well if they haven't accounted for that in projections with Alvin Kamara. So moral of the story is, you guys, don't pay attention to projections when you're drafting these teams. It really doesn't matter, and they're very, very inaccurate in the grand scheme of things. So draft for upside, draft based on value, draft guys that you think have legitimate opportunities to progress and find success in their offenses. Again, I think this team could work out if we're able to win enough games and the stockpile wins to overcome that week 6 basically punted L there. That's great, but we're going to need Bateman or a Mooney, a Kirk, a Williams. One of these guys is going to have to, probably 2 or 3 of those guys are going to have to legitimately step up and be consistent producers, because we know what Mike Williams is, and Mike Williams is a guy who is not going to produce dependable weekly numbers. He's going to be a guy that produces week winning numbers sporadically all year long. So maybe some of that production can come from tight end. Maybe we can find some stability here at quarterback, but at the end of the day, that's what we're looking at here. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure to drop down, leave a like on today's episode. Click that subscribe button if you're new around here, of course. And, don't miss any episodes. Comment if you guys have any questions, got any things you want me to answer for you. Join the community Discord server. Check out the draft guide, some of the links in the description of today's video. Check us out on social media. And yeah, see you guys next time. Peace out.